Okay, guys, welcome back to a Primetime podcast with a special guest here, Jenn Ragland. She's actually a restorative yoga specialist. We've kind of worked together back and forth, even as a client. I've learned a lot about you. You've shown me a lot into kind of the yoga world, so I'm really happy you could hop on today and share kind of your experiences. So,
it's fun.
Do us a favor and just kind of share us a little bit about your background and into the yoga community.
Okay. Well, I got into yoga when I did prenatal yoga when I was pregnant with my first child.
Nice.
And that was my first entree into yoga. I dabbled in it maybe, but not really gotten involved. And then I did prenatal yoga with my second child as well. And then I came back to it when my daughters finally went off to preschool and I had some extra time, and I never looked back. I've been practicing for over 10 years, and I had been a public school teacher in New York City and in Houston, and I really missed teaching and thought about teaching yoga, that might be a nice way for me to teach and teach something that I was really starting to love. So about 4 years ago, I decided to do my 200-hour teacher training at Enlighten Yoga, and I finished that, and I've been teaching for over 3 years, and I recently completed my 500-hour certification. So yay!
It's important for people to know it's a long process.
It's
not like you can do a weekend course. Like personal trainers, let's just say, like they could go online, they could get certified. And that was something that I really liked that you kind of shared, and the credibility that the yoga community brings. It's kind of a whole educational program, right?
It is.
It's taken upon very seriously.
We do a lot of anatomy. We try and learn from experts. Enlighten has a lot of experts come in the field, and as well as our great senior teachers at the studio. So I feel lucky to have gotten my education there.
For sure.
And it continues.
And it doesn't have to be through university. I think that's kind of the cool new paradigm, nowadays. It's like you don't have to go spend $150,000 to get a decent education. You could kind of go through kind of that type of program. So, I didn't know about restorative yoga until really we started talking. It's kind of maybe a new field or a new introduction to some people.
I think it is newer, and maybe it's getting a little bit more popular, especially with all of the injuries that people are finding, and just aging. We're all aging and facing some contracture of the fascia in our tissues, and so restorative yoga is the use of props to support the body and to facilitate relaxation. So it's the idea that we put the body in positions of support, and we allow the practitioner some quiet and try and find some rest and relaxation, cultivating that calm, even, steady breath, and noticing those places in the body where you can hold tension. So I've even had a client say that he never realized how much tension he held in his body until he started practicing restorative yoga.
Perfect.
That's kind of what the field is, and it's growing. I think it's getting more popular,
and probably rightfully so. I had the luxury, and she kind of walked me through a little bit about it because I was kind of curious, and I was like, man, I think a lot of people could benefit from this, but I'd like to kind of try it myself. It was amazing for me to feel my body fight the tension, to want to keep moving, right? And just go. And I'm not the only person. There's a lot of people probably listening right now where go, don't sit well. We fight it so hard. Yet after I kind of hung in there and we did it, how long do you think we spent together?
We spent an hour.
We spent about an hour, right? But I felt totally different. And what's cool is it wasn't like a nap feeling. It was a different type of deeper type of relaxation and recovery and rejuvenation without the nap, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I nap, but I don't feel even better. This was like a cleaner, restorative type of feeling. And I think the challenge is we're just so go. We're plugged into our phones. And I felt the urge to want to look at my phone just when I was kind of getting into that. And so it's also very reflective.
It's really hard for people to get into that mode of I can just be.
Right.
We're not used to just being.
No.
We always want to, strive and do more, and this practice is asking you to do less.
Exactly,
and that's
which is
not
brilliant.
Super popular though.
It's not.
It's a tough mindset to shift over into.
And stress is higher than ever, anxiety is higher than ever, and it's kind of like, well, there's a common thread here. We're all busier than ever.
And
go,
out.
And stressed
really
the hell
stressed out. People don't sleep well. So
just,
they don't even get that rejuvenation, that renewal from a sleep cycle.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely. And I think we'll get into the who's the perfect client, but just a quick shout out there to help really start the thought process of people saving themselves from medications and all this extra stuff. And sometimes it's like, just do less and schedule it into. So as we kind of keep chipping into this, how did you specifically get into restorative yoga? What really drew you into it?
I started as a practitioner. I was really interested in just practicing it for myself. I feel like I have a lot of tension in my body, and it was something I was interested in. So there was a teacher I was working with at Enlighten Yoga, and she had studied with Judith Lassiter, who is widely known in the yoga world as kind of the mother of this form of yoga.
Yeah.
And that really inspired me. So when this teacher that I loved ended up leaving the studio, I was a regular practitioner by that time, and I was a newly certified teacher, and so the owner asked if I'd like to teach that class.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I kind of started, this journey of looking at lots of books and studying online with Judith, and then this summer I was able to do a 30-hour training with Judith in San Francisco.
Amazing.
I think I'm wearing my San Francisco
t-shirt.
Heck yeah. So it was awesome to really learn kind of from the master about this form of yoga.
Exactly.
And, I'm really interested in it. I think especially with our aging population, and like we were talking about, all of the injuries that people are having.
Heck yeah.
It's a great practice to incorporate and kind of balance out all of the hard work that we're doing physically.
Yeah, absolutely. Fit. Perfect. So I know we've touched upon it a little bit, but let's really dive deep into what are the benefits of restorative yoga.
Well, it really can help to combat some of the negative effects of our lifestyle. We're stressed out, and the nice thing about restorative yoga is it's kind of the opposite. You see all these pharmaceutical ads on TV that list all of these horrible side effects.
I know, right?
Where you're just it will do everything bad to you, and restorative yoga is the opposite. It will do everything good for you. It will lower your blood pressure, it can reduce your heart rate, it can reduce your respiratory rate, reduce inflammation in the body, it can help people to manage chronic pain if you have it, it can reduce anxiety, it can help you to sleep better. I mean, it just kind of goes on and on.
You just named off like $1 trillion worth of healthcare right there if you fix that.
No drugs involved, just some quiet.
Love it. Just kind of getting back to our innate human being, just what we need. So, how does all work? How does restorative yoga work?
So the whole idea behind restorative yoga is about quieting the brain, and to quiet down the brain, we have to quiet down our central nervous system. And there's two parts of this system. So there's the sympathetic part, and that's our fight or flight response. And then there's the parasympathetic, which is responsible for the rest and relax response. And in restorative yoga, what we're trying to do is shift from that dominance of our sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic. And the way that we do this is we support the body using props, so that the body is not having to hold itself in place. You're using bolsters and blankets and stuff to hold the body in place. And then you practice in a quiet, dark, warm room. And the reason you do a quiet room is because noise is stimulating to the brain. So again, we're trying to reduce all of that stimulus to the brain. And the same thing with dark. We want to practice in a dark room or with an eye bag or a cover over the eyes, so that you can really reduce that stimulus. The light is a powerful stimulus to the brain. And then we practice in a warm room too, and warm meaning a comfortable temperature.
Not hot, like a hot yoga.
Not
maybe
hot.
Some people are thinking
and that's just so that your body's not fighting cold. When you're fighting cold, to, try and stay warm,
right,
you can't focus and relax. I mean, it's why we're, covered up and wrapped up in blankets when we sleep. So we're trying to take away anything that might stimulate that sympathetic nervous system so that we can fully relax. And then once we're set up in a pose, we find stillness, and you tend to stay in restorative postures for a longer period of time than you would in a normal yoga class.
How long?
Takes anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because it takes about 15 minutes just to switch from sympathetic dominance to parasympathetic
dominance.
Nice,
gotcha.
So,
okay, got it.
My teacher, Judith Lassiter, likes to hold people in a shavasana for 20 minutes because it's kind of that icing on the cake, that extra 5 minutes to really heal and
I love that.
Let the body heal.
I love that. Awesome. Because it's important for the why, because people are like, what am I doing here again? And why am I here? And why does it have to be 15? And you're telling us there's legitimate science in terms of behind the practice of here, and I think that's really important. And from the sympathetic system, everyone seems to be coming into my clinic on fight or flight. They're ready to go all the time.
We're adrenaline charged.
Adrenaline charged is an understatement. I've had people who've been in chronic pain. Once they're finally out of pain, they pass out. Like they just sleep, and it just tells you how exhausted they are from the pain all the time. And it just makes me wonder if they have dabbed into restorative yoga a little bit more often, would that help them not be so consistently on that fight or flight mode?
I have people, well, certainly, the adrenal fatigue that we all feel, I think that restorative yoga can help a lot. But I've had clients with fibromyalgia who've experienced like a reduction in their pain.
I believe it.
And an uptick in their energy.
Sure.
So
that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome.
I think it's a good practice for everybody.
Oh almost. And this is one of those things that's like legitimately probably everyone could benefit from. That's the coolest part. And we'll get into a little bit more on that in a second. I'm sure some people are going to reach out to me and they might go, man, I saw that picture and it kind of looked like they're just sleeping or napping. So what would your response be to someone like that in those scenarios?
It's kind of what you said, that you got a little bit more out of this restorative yoga session that we did than just even taking a nap.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Part of the deal is that when we sleep, we're still holding tension in our muscles. So in restorative yoga, we're trying to release all of that tension. So the support that we use for the head and neck, it's actually discouraging sleep. It's trying to hold your head in a position where your head's not going to loll to one side. And it kind of holds your head up just that little bit to discourage that sleep, because we want the practitioner to be conscious. And we want them to keep that calm, steady, even breath and let their physical body rest. But it's not, it really isn't falling asleep. And my teacher puts it this way. She says, the mind watches while the body sleeps.
Well, I love that. That's a good quote.
I think that's
I really like that.
A nice way of thinking about it.
And I think you've even mentioned to me before, it's almost kind of a gateway into find you mind just touching on that for a second?
A gateway drug,
exactly.
into meditation.
And talk about,
just starting to find that quiet, starting to find that more in a more internal practice. Because it really is challenging for people to find stillness.
It sure is,
It makes sense that the place to start to find stillness before you can even get to the mind is to start with the body.
I love that. That's awesome. It makes a lot of sense. Okay. So honestly, it's one of those scenarios, it's like, who wouldn't want to get started? I know we're busy and stuff like that, but let's say someone's like, okay, like let's do this. I would benefit from this. So how would they kind of get started in restorative yoga?
I think that props are really important in this practice, and but the thing is that you can start a practice even if all you have is one blanket.
I love that. Nice.
So I wouldn't want people to be daunted or feel like you have to go out and purchase, a dozen blankets and bolsters and all this other stuff. You can start that practice even with household items, a blanket, towel. But the most important part of the body to support is the head and neck. So, I mean, there is research out there that if you can support the head and neck, the rest of the body can relax. That's why that's so key.
Nice.
You can. It's like falling asleep on an airplane.
Yeah.
If you can find that right position for your head and neck to rest, you're going to go to sleep.
So true.
But if you can't find that position,
right.
you're toast. You're
right.
going to be, awake for however
exactly.
many hours. So it's kind of the same thing in restorative yoga, although we're propping that so that you're not going to fall asleep. So it's just taking that 20 minutes to find some quiet and some rest. But you can use a blanket, and I think we'll put something on the Facebook page.
We'll put some links below.
And just have that kind of how you can support the head and neck with that blanket, and just lie back in a quiet, dark room for 20 minutes. Set a timer on your phone. Put the phone away from you and on airplane mode, and just be.
Right. I did notice when we kind of work together, it's almost an art in terms of setting everything up and getting it just right. So for those who are beginners, I wouldn't want them to necessarily get overwhelmed. So I guess just what would kind of be your encouragement as they just kind of get started getting into the poses?
I think first, keeping it really simple.
Nice.
Like there's some poses that we can kind of direct people to that are a little bit more prop light.
Nice, yeah.
And again, there's things you can use at home. You can use your sofa or your chair to prop your legs up, and lie back down.
I love that. Okay.
So there's ways that we can kind of get started where you don't have to be daunted. You could always get some one-on-one time with me. You can come to a class.
Love it. Okay.
So there are ways for people to get started beyond.
Seems like a good option.
Yeah.
Seems like a really good option. So to kind of transition to that, in an ideal world and week, who's the best client for restorative yoga, and how often would they do it per week?
I think it's great for everybody, and the beautiful thing about this practice is that really anyone can do it. As long as you are able to get down on the floor and get up from the floor, you can pretty much do this practice. And then there's even chair variations for people who can't get down on the floor and get up off the floor. So it's accessible to everybody.
Perfect.
And I think if you experience stress, if you have trouble sleeping, if you have chronic pain or high blood pressure, it's something to try. Why not try a drug-free,
natural
way, safe.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is start by making a commitment to just one pose for 20 minutes a day for 1 week.
I love that.
Just
so
to see
simple.
how you feel.
20 minutes out of how many minutes are in a week, right?
Yeah, I think it is hard, right?
Right.
Because first of all, we don't want to carve out that time.
Right.
It seems really selfish.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to go work out for an hour, but to lie down on the floor for an hour,
am I wasting time?
Or 20 minutes even, it just seems like I could be, emptying the dishwasher or putting the load. So I think we have to really change the mindset.
Nice.
And
this is beneficial.
This is beneficial.
This is helping me.
Yeah, this is helping me. And this it could just be that 20 minutes a day just to see how you feel.
Right.
And then maybe, hopefully you'll be sold on it enough to really make that commitment to yourself to do this.
Just to share a quick story, I had a gentleman who had pain, and this scenario was down as his knees and his feet. We had done some work from the rehab side, and he was getting better, but not quite where he wanted. In this case, he actually started working with stress and kind of a psychiatrist. And just from talking it out, they realized they kind of brought out some things from the past. And after working through his stress, providing more rest and relaxation, his pain was gone. And he said, I would have never have believed that if someone told me. So I just wonder for those listening, if they've tried this or that, maybe in contemplating surgery, they've been in chronic pain, you kind of wonder how much of your pain is being fascinated just from stress. Yeah. And maybe this is the missing link for them, that they finally block and carve out the time, they do something easy. You don't need a whole lot of resources. Financially doable, right? You're not going into severe pharmaceutical expenses. It's like the low-hanging fruit is kind of what I'm saying. So you legitimately have nothing to lose in this type of scenario. And all those things you mentioned with the high blood pressure and stress, you just created an avatar for the average American, right? Who doesn't really fit into that? So honestly, if you're listening to this, I think almost every one of us should at least give it a go. So let's kind of transition it. How do they sign up? Where do you practice? Where are you located?
So I teach at Enlighten Yoga in Blakeney.
Okay.
And we do have a couple of restorative classes on our schedule. I teach a class regularly on Tuesday afternoons.
Okay.
At 1:45 to 3 in the afternoon, and then we've added a Sunday evening class.
Nice.
So I'm hoping
that feels like a winner.
I'm hoping that people who work can get there on a Sunday evening, and that class is at 5:45 to 7
That
o'clock.
seems like a good time.
And it's a great time to kind of end your week and start the next week on a good note. And that's Enlighten Yoga in Blakeney.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, hey,
shout out.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else?
No, I just hope that people will try it out. And if you have any questions, I'm sure we'll have my contact information.
Yeah.
Please feel free to email me.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And don't be daunted by it. Try it out.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for hopping on today,
Sure.
Jenn. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys soon.